Hello friends, I'm FIDE instructor Atul Dahale and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to see one of the most instructive classical games played in the history of chess. Yes, this game was played between Boleslavsky and George Lisitsin in the year of 1956. In this game, Boleslavsky's opponent made a very small inaccurate move that he played e5 in the center of the board. And after e5, what happened is like d5 square was very much weakened, and Boleslavsky understood this thing and he saw that okay, his opponent has weakened that square and he needs to do something about it. Slowly and gradually he removed his opponent's defending pieces, and after removing the defenders he launched his knight in the center of the board, that is on the d5, that is the outpost, and then he won the game in great fashion. So I'll not give you too many details about this what happened in the game, so stay tuned with me till the end and watch this video and understand how beautifully this game was played. But without going further, I would like to tell you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are new here. So the game started with e4. Boleslavsky was white, his opponent Lisitsin was black. Then he played c5, knight to f3, d6, d4, Sicilian defense you can say, c into d4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight c3 and g6. Well, this is a very famous opening that is called as the Sicilian dragon opening, and in that dragon opening bishop e3 was played by Boleslavsky. Bishop to g7 and f3. This is a very famous, like Yugoslav attack can happen if white goes for the g4, this kind of moves, but in this game that was not played. They played in a very calm and cool fashion. He played castles, queen d2. Remember, this game was played in the year of 1956. That time the story was still evolving, so you can say that okay, these players were the pioneers of all these openings. So knight c6 was played, and now white long castles. Whenever you castle on the opposite sides, then it means that you are going for the great fight, and that's what this opening and the game is all about, fighting spirit only. Knight into d4, bishop into d4, and black played queen to a5. Well, whenever you play queen to a5, you are attacking the pawn on a2, and that's why white player usually plays king to b1, supporting the pawn on a2. Well, you might say that the knight is also supporting white to play king b1. Well, sometimes what happens, you need to play your knight to d5 square, that is the central square for the knight, is a very important thing, and I'm going to tell you, so wait for a while. In this position, the most common way to play nowadays, everybody knows that bishop e6 followed by rook to c8, and then white even can try for something like b5, try to get something on the queen side, okay, and white usually plays on the king side with moves like h4, g4 and so on. Okay, that was one of the case, but instead of playing bishop to e6 directly, here black thought, why not remove this bishop from this square by playing e5 and then go for bishop e6. Okay, that plan might be something okay, but what has happened with this bishop to e6, we should take a stock of this position. Here after bishop to e6, it seems that okay, everything is cool, but in black's position the d5 pawn means d5 square has become a weakness, because here there is no pawn which can control the d5 square. Another thing is that the pawn on d6 is also a backward pawn which doesn't have any kind of support from behind, and that's why that pawn is also a weakness. One more thing is there, in dragon it is said that the dragon bishop, that is the bishop on g7, is very important, and by playing e5 the bishop is also stuck. So in many grounds this move, that is the e5, is a mistake, that is the positional mistake you can say, and this is how you should not play in your game. You should try to maintain your piece activity, and here black developed the piece but at the cost of giving so many advantages to his opponent, so that is not something we should do. Here a3 was played, obviously we need to support the pawn also. A3, black played rook f d8, supporting the pawn on d8, and now here, as I was saying, the bishop and the knight, these are the two pieces which are supporting, or you can say the guarding the d5 square. Okay, so Boleslavsky planned something very interesting in this position. He understood that there are weaknesses on d5 and d6, and he need to get rid of these two pieces, that is the bishop on e6 and knight on f6. If he gets rid of these pieces, then if he manages to get his knight to d5 square, then that will be a magical square for the knight and it will do wonders. Okay, For that reason, he played knight to b5. Well, he is asking his opponent to capture queen into d2, but this will actually not help him, because after rook into d2, the pawn on d6 as well as the pawn on a7, one of the pawn is surely going to fall. Even if you play bishop f8 supporting the pawn, we can surely play just knight into b5 or bishop into b5, simply going for bishop b6, and knight c7 is also one of the threat. White should be pawn up in that position without any trouble. Okay, so he plays queen a4 trying to maintain the position, and now here in this position he lures his opponent to capture one of the pawn. He gives up one pawn by playing c4. This is a very strange move, you can say. Who gives up the pawn? Well, he has a plan of action in his mind. His plan of action is that if black captures bishop into c4, which is what happened in the game, he will play knight to c3, attacking the queen on a4, and now queen to b3, bishop into c4, queen into super. Well, he could have captured bishop into c4 earlier also, but now after knight c3, okay, the move which was played in the game, after this he is getting one extra move, that he can land on the d5 square more quickly. Okay, that is the main reason why he played knight to c3. Now bishop takes c4, queen takes c4, and now what you should do? Yes, you are absolutely right about this thing. The knight on f6 is the only guardian of the d5 square, and he plays bishop to g5 to exchange the knight. Okay, this is just the beginning. Okay, once the knight will land on the d5 square, I am going to explain you more. So queen goes to e6 square trying to defend the d6 pawn, and he calmly captures bishop into f6, queen into f6, and finally the knight outpost. The knight comes on the d5 square, and it is a very beautiful square for the knight. There are many things why this square is a beautiful square for the knight. One thing is there, the knight is controlling all the important squares in the opponent's camp. These are the 4 squares. Plus he is also controlling these important squares in other camp also. So it becomes like the knight is become like the octopus knight. One more thing is there, the pawn on d6, which is a, you can say, a backward pawn is also there. So remember this thing. Okay, if you can put your knight in front of a backward pawn, the knight can never be dislodged by any of the opponent's pawns. And if you have already like removed your opponent's defending pieces, that the way white played, the bishop on e6 is gone, the knight on f6 is gone, then the knight will be very strong piece. All you need to do in this position now from the white side is launch the attack on the king side, because the bishop on g7 is completely bad, because it is controlled, or you can say restricted, by his own pawns, that is the pawn on d6 and the pawn on e5. So now game goes on, queen h4, and now okay, anybody who wants to expand on the king side, he will think that okay, I can play g3, but if you play g3 immediately, then black might play queen h3 and halting the pawn storm, or you can say pawns will not be pushed forward so easily. So Boleslavsky was a very smart player. He understood that black wants to stop all the pawns, and then he will try to consolidate the position by playing rook a c8, rook c6, or so on, something like that. So he played queen to e2 with a very instructive idea, that his idea is to play after bishop f8 queen f1. Queen f1, guys. This is the idea behind playing queen e2, because now when you are going to play g3, black can no longer play queen h3, and this is a very deep idea which you need to see. Stopping your opponent's ideas is a very good thing in your game, that is called as the prophylactic thinking. Okay, so rook a c8 was played, and now white plays g3, attacking the queen. Queen cannot go to h3 square, so he goes to g3 square. Now what will you play? Yes, you should not stop here, you can just keep going h4. The queen is not having any good squares, f6 is not there, e7 is not there, f5 is not there, everything is completely gone. So he plays queen h6. Well, you might ask me what happens if you play queen to g3. Well, if you play queen into g3, then the queen will be trapped after rook h3, because it will not be having any squares to go around, and the poor queen will be trapped there. Okay, so he did not play that move. Queen h5 if you play, then the queen will be lost after knight f6. This will be a knight fork and it will be gone, so that is also not a possibility. Queen h6 was played, and now he goes for the g4 move. Now the next move is going to be g5. Look at these poor pieces which are not even coming in the game. This is the power of the knight which is sitting in the center of the board, restricting everything in our opponent's camp. Now black plays g5 trying to get some room here in this position, but nothing is going to help him. H into g5, queen into g5, and the rook comes on the h5 square. Queen is having very limited number of squares. He plays queen to g6, and now a very beautiful move. Again, once again in the game, he plays g5. Now the rook cannot be captured because knight f6 check, followed by king knight into h5, and white will be queen up. So he did not play that move. He plays h6. And now what will you play? Well, the rook is completely fearless in this position, and you will be surprised to see the next move is another good move by Boleslavsky. He plays rook into h6, okay, queen into g5, and after queen into g5, here, obviously here if you play bishop into h6, g into h6 is one of the possibilities, but as we know, the knights are very tricky, and the knight on d5 will do the wonders. He plays knight to e7 check, the king moves to h7 square, and now knight into g6, white will be queen up. So because of the knight in the center of the board, everything is such a beautiful game, I really love this game. And now queen into g5. At last black will say like, I might save myself, but that is not going to happen. He plays rook h5. He is fearless. He's saying like, okay man, take my rook. But black is completely helpless in this position. Also he plays queen. If he resigned in this position, even if he plays queen to g6, then queen h1 followed by rook will be coming on g1 square, and white will be winning the queen for sure. And there is also checkmate threatened very soon. So this is a beautiful game. The power of the knight in the center of the board is shown in this game. I hope you enjoyed this game, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. We will be meeting with very interesting game in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.